Yeah, that's great.
Cool.
Okay, mine all is running now.
Hey everyone, it is the 4th of October already, and we are in 2022, and we are with a bunch of lovely people here from the GetAlby team, and we also have Shalom joining us. And this UX research call is going to be focused on doing some UX research on some user data that we've collected for GetAlby. So maybe Moritz would like to give a brief introduction about GetAlby so that if anyone's not familiar with them, they'll have a rough idea of what GetAlby does.
Sure. So I think a lot of people probably know Alby from the Bitcoin design community already, where we are actually part of it. We with Alby want to bring Bitcoin to the web basically, and the first product that we have out there for consumers is the Alby browser extension. It works on Chrome and on Firefox. You can connect your own Lightning wallet to it, or you can also use the included Alby Lightning wallet. Then you can make a lot of nice things with the browser extension on the internet. You can pay, receive, you can access different Bitcoin applications on the web, and many things more. But it also comes with a lot of challenges for users, and that's why I'm glad that we can talk about this today.
We have some couple people here. We have Anastasia, you're also on the GetAlby team, I'm guessing. Would love to know more about you, and feel free to introduce yourself.
What I do now, I create content for Alby, like video on YouTube, and I'm also trying to reach to creators who does the same, like who produce some content, and who could possibly make Alby created and monetize their content.
Cool. We have Quentin here as well, also from the GetAlby team.
Hello, yes, I'm Quentin. I'm a Lightning and backend engineer at Alby. So I manage Lightning nodes and I write backend software to support Lightning.
Cool. And Diana is our creative on the Alby team. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey everyone, I do UX UI on Alby, and together with the team we're making a very cool product.
And we have a UX researcher on the call who is Shalom. She's new to the Bitcoin design community. Don't be shy, Shalom. Feel free to introduce yourself. You're most welcome.
Hi, my name is Shalom. I'm a UX designer, and this is my first time on any open source call. Thank you so much for welcoming me.
You're so welcome. So welcome. And we have Christoph, also from the Bitcoin design community. So also feel free to just shortly introduce yourself and.
I'm Christoph. Just hang out in the Bitcoin design community a lot throughout the last 2 years, doing all kinds of different things.
Yeah. So I'm really.
You'd like to know?
Anyone have any questions for Christoph?
Or anyone else, I guess. Great to see everyone.
Yeah, thanks a lot for organizing this, I have to say, to Mo especially, starting this, asking in the community, but also organizing it for the Alby team, giving out tasks. That was a very good idea.
And Shalom, she's jumping on the call. She's a UX researcher. She really wants to get her hands into some hands-on UX research stuff. So she's very keen on helping us with collecting data, that kind of thing. Let's just jump in. I'll give a very brief introduction. So pretty much I posted in the Bitcoin Design General Slack channel to give you a bit of background. Hey, is anyone interested in, I think it was a specific UX research topic that I suggested, I think. And then Moritz liked the emoji, and I was straight away in his DMs with, hey, shall we set up a call for that? And that's pretty much how this call came about. And between Moritz, Diana, and myself, we have a three-way chat conversation, and we've been kind of seeing how GetAlby as an open source project can collect user data, because I think that a lot of people think that user data is something that you need to actually find somewhere, like it's something that's hidden, but actually it's GetAlby already had a lot of user data that they already have access to. And as the three of us, we've been kind of collecting the user data together in these different Google documents. I'm pretty sure we're not finished yet because there's a lot of user data to collect for GetAlby. You guys had a lot of data, more than what we expected, I think. Yeah. Do you want to just speak briefly, maybe, Diana, about what we've collected and what we...
Sure. So we've initially tackled three sources, which was emails, Telegram group that we have, and our Twitter. But also we had a tool when someone is deleting the Chrome extension, we show them a feedback form where they say why they're deleting it. And Moritz was kind enough to paste that as well. So from what I saw, our four sources of information. One is more, Twitter is more like for businesses and positive reviews, because people like it, people love talking about nice things. Telegram is also kind of a discussions and ideas and suggestions. That feedback form was super spot on because it's limited characters and it gives feedback straight to the point. And as well with emails, we kind of see where issues are.
Nice.
So that was very helpful for us. I really enjoyed the exercise, and thanks again, Mo, for setting it up.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we kind of started this three-way chat between us, we didn't know where we could get user data from, and I think that's something really interesting for other open source projects to learn from, because data is everywhere. Like you guys had it, Morris said, would emails help? And we were like, yeah, of course, emails help, you know? Then I hopped in, so we kind of designated tasks to each other. I was collecting from the Telegram channel, Diana was collecting from Twitter, and Moritz collected from the emails. And I think there's one more channel that we missed, actually. There was one more.
Actually, we have several more channels, and Quentin and Anastasia are here not randomly. Quentin works with GitHub and answers a lot of GitHub issues from developers and contributors, and Anastasia is working with creators on YouTube side, and she's collecting and feeding us back replies from the potential Alby users and what is a non-Alby user thinks about Alby and the process and the explanation. So we have a whole larger scope of user data to talk today about.
This is amazing. Quentin, can you tell us more about the data from GitHub, because we've definitely not collected anything from there yet.
From GitHub, so yeah.
Could you quickly reconnect your
Yes.
microphone?
Welcome, Renee. Nice to see you here as well.
Hey everyone,
Here,
glad to be here.
Is it
He is also from the Alby team.
Yeah, and he's also active on GitHub. So
Yeah, very
if I
much.
forget something, Renee can also shed some light. So the main thing, I think, a big successes in the user feedback that we got from GitHub is, for example, people adding their new connectors to the Alby extension, so new ways to connect the Lightning wallet. I think that has helped shape the Alby extension over the last couple of months, with like already 13 connectors, which are both like non-custodial nodes and then also other community wallets. So I think feedback from GitHub has certainly shaped that part of Alby. And yeah, also from what should I say? I don't know, Renee, do you want to say something else?
Yeah, sure. So from my perspective, also a lot of people jump in on GitHub directly, and some of them even create tickets, report bugs. I guess though it's the more like interested or technical users who are there, not so much the creator users or wallet users really.
So there is this feedback from more technical users on GitHub, would you say, or?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
In general, I would say so. There are a few exceptions where sometimes people really created a GitHub account just to report some issues, so some first-time users in there. But I would say, most of them have a technical background.
Yeah. And Anastasia, would you like to tell us about where you know? Yeah.
Yeah, mines are opposite. They are non-technical and they are far away from knowing like second layer things or maybe even like crypto-related themes. So what I found out, it's quite difficult for them to understand, and it needs to be explained like by steps what to do. Like you need to click here, then you receive that, then you need to click here. So like every simple step you need to explain. That's the most.
And what's your feeling as a team? Like, is Alby really having these two very clear user groups, or are you guys kind of still feeling your way in that at the moment? Like this very technical group, and then the group that Anastasia is describing, which is tell me ABC 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, I think in the beginning it's the Bitcoiner Lightning user, and they on average they are very tech savvy.
Yeah.
Right now, I think Alby is most attractive to them right now.
The tech savvy ones, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I created us a. Does anyone want? Christoph, do you want to add anything? You're listening very patiently here.
I was just talking about sources for feedback. The Chrome Web Store and the Firefox add-on stores. We also allow users of the extension to leave feedback. On the Chrome Web Store, there are currently 12 reviews. One of them, which looks kind of shady, by someone called Moritz Kavinsky. Not sure what's going on there. But I don't know. Maybe maybe there's a way that you know how in the application somebody get this thing like, hey, review us, give us a stars or something. Maybe there's a way to encourage these types of reviews from actual users. I don't know. I really have no idea what's possible there. But those are two extra data sources that currently don't seem particularly helpful. The Firefox add-ons, there are 8 reviews. Yeah, but maybe something to keep an eye on. Maybe there's more potential there.
Well, it's great that you've mentioned it, because just today, this morning, we had a brainstorming session on how to make like mini jobs, mini games on Alby. So users would go and do little things. For example, leave a review, or send a referral link to someone, get your first transaction, or send your first transaction, and reward those with like mini amounts of sats.
Yeah.
So that is something we're looking into already. So super cool that you've reconfirmed how important that is.
And I'm kind of curious. Well, that sounds really good. I'm kind of curious too how the feedback from Anastasia about that users need all of this guidance, if that can be used to improve onboarding potentially, or if that is, if those have to be for whatever reason, if those are just separate things and people despite even if the onboarding is the best in the world, if they still need this hand-holding?
Yeah, good question.
Yeah, I think I can take that one. Right now, I think Anastasia is working with the test group because we're still very much focused on the technical user, and we're looking for ways to make it more accessible for non-technical user, and we're making all these little toys for people to play with, like selling pictures online and pressing buttons on social groups, social chats, and things like that. And that sparks a lot of interest on social media and gives us some clout. But I think the most feedback we use right now is from GitHub, actually, and from people who leave tickets, feedback, bug reports, and things like that.
I created a very this is just so that we can have. I like everything to be visual. Something that I learned from Christoph is to keep things visual. So I created this very loose, just this Fig Jam document. Collect user data. And in this, I added in these groups that we've been collecting data from already. I added in the Telegram group. I added in the customer emails. We have Twitter. We now have a couple more, which you guys have actually mentioned, which might be good to add those ones in as well, which is GitHub.
I had a list of things prepared. So Twitter, Telegram, Slack, email, feedback form, GitHub, direct messages, podcasts, and Chrome App Store. They're in the chat. You can copy paste.
Ooh, this is good. Oh wow! Oh my goodness. Okay. All right. So we have Twitter. We already have Telegram. We have Slack. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's solid.
Wow. Okay. Your users just like giving feedback.
We are quite chatty with the users, and users are very much chatty back to us. So I think one of the purposes of this call is to talk about how we can either have a system to tackle all this feedback, or create funnels, or both. Like either create funnels and direct users to feedback forms and teach our users to better communicate feedback with us. So they give us something, we internally process it, give it a priority, and feedback to them how important their feedback was. And is it going to be actionable, or is it going to be something to consider in the future? So I think this would be a really cool thing for us to discuss collectively, what to do and how to work with feedback. And we would love Christoph and Mo's input on that.
Yeah, this is a unique challenge for me. I've never been presented with this before, so.
Yeah, so it's more like your internal management, your workflow for gathering and evaluating feedback.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit tricky because, I mean, sometimes you just want a big database of everything. You just want to search, sending, and then see what people have to say about that. You want it raw. But other times, I feel like in teams, you have a UX researcher who's really in tune with things. And the other people, they're in tune with the code or with the business, with design or other things. And then only sometimes they get exposure. And for them, it's almost better if, let's say, the researcher or someone just kind of prepares these summaries. Like they've read through the 20 different points of feedback about whatever, and they kind of pull out the sentiment from that and just kind of convey that and make it usable. So that's more like a report. So, but I think there's space for a need for both. That helps. But how does we have different people from the team here? How do you, as a developer, as Moritz, how is this most useful to you? Do you want to read every single thing that comes in, or?
I think you're muted.
Yeah, I
Moritz?
think you're muted.
Yeah, I think everyone should read what comes in. Everyone should be in touch with the user feedback, because we all work on these products. We should know what people like and what not to react appropriately.
Mm-hmm.
I think somehow we need to have some funnel there.
Mm-hmm.
Funnel in for make feedback clearer on the one hand side, but also then on the next step to prioritize that. So, for example, voting, not only voting of us, but also, for example, voting from other users to see, okay, is this feature just that now specific to one person, or is it actually asked by several others as well?
Mm-hmm.
So, I think big challenges here are making feedback more understandable for us, and also make it usable in the sense of understand if it's a priority or not.
And this is a challenge as well, is, as we're going to be collecting the user data, is that I noticed that, at least just from the Telegram group, we need the developer, we need the people with the tech know-how on the calls, because when you sort through some of the user feedback, there's some terminology that's not very familiar. And when you sort through user data, you kind of have to try to see, you group the data together, and sometimes certain terms and certain aspects of the interface might be connected, but maybe Diana and I don't understand what those words mean, so we wouldn't automatically connect those two different user feedbacks together, if that makes sense. With regards to in terms of a solution for filtering the data, I spoke with a UX researcher once, and they have this in-house system that they use. It's not free, it's a paid solution, but I'll reach out to her again because I forget the name of it, but they have there's this solution that filters on keywords. So it's almost like there's this application, and you kind of upload all of the feedback into the application. It's a specific UX research tool.
Yeah.
I think
there is Intercom,
Mm-hmm.
there is Zendesk, and there is something else. There's many products, but those are big on the market that work specifically with user feedback, and even you can connect them to our sources, and they can pick up the
keywords.
issues. But the thing is that we will end up with a whole lot of tickets created for some things that are like, hey, Alby, you're great. And so we need some hybrid approach where we can both direct people to just a feedback form where they can make their structured feedbacks, or go into conversations, for example, like on Twitter and on Telegram, where we see developers with the power users talking about things, and then compress that into a smaller feedback, and then feed that back to the person who raised the issue. So he would confirm that that's what he wanted, and then we can tell him if it's actionable or not. But that's the next step. For us, it's very important first to shape the way we collect it and turn it into tickets. Not necessarily on GitHub tickets, but Zendesk or Intercom tickets where we later can come and read them and assign priorities to them.
Shape the way you collect it. So you have, so at the moment you have information coming in from Telegram, the Chrome App Store, podcast, Twitter, custom emails. Someone wrote goodbye feedback form here. You have it from GitHub. You have, what is DMS? This is
a direct messenger.
Direct messenger, okay. Okay, and then you have Slack as well.
Yeah. So maybe to add to that, goodbye feedback form is when someone uninstalls the Alby extension, then a feedback form pops up. The user gets 3 questions: what did you like, what did you not like, why did you uninstall Alby? This is what I meant here. And then we have a general feedback because there's more functionality behind. People can post a feature request or a bug on two different boards. So we have first form of filtering there, and then they can add pictures to it, so it's a bit richer in terms of like content that they can send to us. We can comment and interact with them on this feedback board, and like post questions back. And also other people can vote on these features, so there is some like prioritization possible
in building
on this
features.
board.
Any thoughts, Christoph?
Yeah, I'm just thinking, just trying to figure out how to break this down into smaller bits and pieces. So there's, you tell me if I'm wrong, naturally. So it seems like there's this one part about just aggregating the data. Everything comes in, ends up in one bucket, and that bucket, people just have to look at that bucket, which, people want that for everything. People want that for social media. People want that for their Bitcoin wallets. It's always nice. Why can't I just have everything in one place? But then integrating all this stuff is always like a gigantic mess. And it never totally works because all these bits and pieces actually have different character, and you want to respond to them differently. So this aggregation thing is always a little bit tricky. The other one was about splitting up the feedback into different pieces. There's just the general stuff like, hey, good job, or hey, I hate it, see you later. Or the specific requests like, oh, I wish you could do this because I want to do that. Or the bug reports and problem with this. Maybe there could be different tools for these types of different things, or subcategorizations. Do you have like buckets that you put things in like that?
Not at the moment. We don't. We kind of tackle one by one, and then when we agree on a priority, we make a GitHub ticket and we add it to the sprint.
Okay.
But a lot of it untouched this way.
And do you feel like you're overwhelmed right now by all the different feedback that comes in? Or is it manageable?
Well, because everyone is managing a small part, it is manageable. But if there was one dedicated person who would have to go and collect it, I wouldn't want to be that person.
So, with regards to the sorting of the data to help with prioritization of, I can help with that part. So, because Christoph pointed out something very, very, very accurate. He said, well, there's two parts to the puzzle. The one part is prioritizing the requests and deciding what features you prioritize building. And the other part is aggregating the data. So the aggregating would be like this funnel, because at the moment you have all these little bubbles of information coming in. And then the other part would be prioritizing. So those are two different parts in the puzzle. I'm going to... With regards to sorting through the data and prioritizing features based on the data, so this is with regards to this, let me call the prioritization problem 1. The prioritization, I'm going to share my screen with you here. We will, I'll just share my screen here, and is this visible at the moment? I've got a very messy diagram in front of me at the moment. Is that visible? Yeah. So what really helps with research, but I think we're really going to have to prioritize which feedback channels we use. So for example, we could collect all of the feedback from the Telegram, and we'd literally stick them on post-it notes. We'd collect all of the feedback from Twitter, we'd stick them on post-it notes. It's a really tedious, messy process. If someone has built an app for this already for larger companies, I'd love to know, because this part is very messy, it's quite tedious. So you would put, like, we have these Google documents at the moment, and we would put these on stickers, you know. So we would say Telegram here, we would say GitHub here, but we would have to choose a very specific time frame that we would work in, because if we choose since the beginning of when Alby came about, then we will have too many of these stickers, and it gets very tricky with grouping and prioritizing and that kind of thing. So we can say, look, we focus on the last 6 months, and then we say, you know, we count 6 months back from October, and we only use user feedback from the last 6 months. We literally would copy paste that here. Then as a team, you kind of put all of the data together, and then you start grouping the data into, you start finding patterns. And you find patterns with regards to, you know, I don't know the Alby interface as well as you guys, but you can start to find patterns, you can start to group the patterns. And after you group those patterns, the final step is you can basically start to see where those patterns exist in your in the interface. So you can start to see that mapping. This is a hotel booking platform that I did this on, so it's completely different to GetAlby. But you can start to then group it into which part of the user interface this is fitting into. And this is how you can make very specific decisions, design decisions. It can feed directly back into the design process. Because if you see, like, okay, you know, there's a lot of people complaining about filtering, the menu filtering option. You basically just, where does the menu filtering option fit into the design, into the user flow? Okay, it's under the select hotel option. Let's see what we can do with redesigning that part. But as I said, because Alby has so much of data, in order to feed back something very specific to the design process, we would have to narrow down the time frame that we are working with, because otherwise we'll literally be busy for 1 year, and then there'll be no UI decisions made from the data that we collect. Because you know, I went back, I started collecting data from the Telegram group from the beginning of this year from GetAlby, and I think it's already maybe 2 or 3 pages in a Google document. So if we say, like, okay, you know, maybe we just focus on the last 3 months, we get a little bit more narrow with the time frame, we can start to feed those decisions back to the design process a bit more. And if you guys want to undertake a massive project, then you can look at the last year, you know, but it's going to be a lot of work. It's going to be a lot of work.
I went the other way. I started from what happened yesterday to however far I could get, and with Twitter I didn't get too far, because it is all conversations, and conversations have links, and links have mentions, and etc. It just, the rabbit hole just goes too deep.
It goes too deep. It goes really deep, because your users are very communicative, which is excellent. Maybe we could even narrow it down to the last month even, because I even feel with a month we already are going to get a lot of information even from these sources. But then, you know, there's a little bit of a downside to that, because then you're missing all of the stuff from before. But you can put this process on repeat.
Yes. We actually had this call. I had this call in mind yesterday when we got a piece of user feedback, and I wanted to make it like a structure, working on the user feedback. And the feedback was about sending LN URL payments, and we didn't have a field to accept those. So internally we went in and we discussed it, and we decided internally that it's a high priority issue. So we just put the component that we had to fix it, one component, then the next screen would have one field, and then a success screen, and that problem was kind of sorted, and we added it to our, well, not this sprint, but next sprint,
Yeah.
So we can then go back to the user and tell them that, hey, this was created, this was acted on, and I think having open conversations with users who give really impactful feedback is important, and we recognize it when we see it, because everyone's replying on Twitter, everyone's reading Twitter. We're a small team, we don't get that many messages, so whenever something bright or colorful or like impactful is coming in, then we can act on it and build a relationship with people who give this good feedback to us.
Yeah, and you know, you can never underestimate, like, you know, you went back to the user, you said we fixed it, we made a change in our interface, and that one user will go and tell 10 other people, and then Alby has 10 more users, you know, so yeah. Christoph pointed out something really good. There are definitely two problems. From my experience, I can only help with the prioritizing in terms of the UI, you know, bringing the feedback of the users into the design. That's the part that I can help with. The other one, I don't know. Any thoughts? Any solutions that are coming up?
I think I've outlined the steps we need to take in our team to better work with feedback. One is deciding on the format where our feedback will be aggregated, will exist. So some sort of a Zendesk or intercom, I think, from like what I know would work. And then we should schedule sessions with pretty much everyone who's on the call from Alby team here who works with feedback that we've collected to that tool in, say, 2 weeks' time, and then go over it quickly and assign priorities and discuss the things that are most important. And also, on our side, add tags to it, so we would be able to group them faster.
Yeah, it makes sense. And what you'll notice with this grouping, this very messy process that I showed you, which is very time consuming, is that you'll start to notice trends in, like, a lot of people might comment about the onboarding from Twitter or in Telegram, and then you'll notice there's a bunch of onboarding things and it's 10 different sticky notes, but maybe the I don't know, the login option only has 5 sticky notes. Well, then it's quite clear that the onboarding is something to work on a bit more, because there's 10 sticky notes about that, you know. It's not always the easiest way to know if that's the most problematic area, but at least it's a kind of a direction to go in and a clear area to work on within the UI design. Any thoughts, Christoph? Or Moritz? Or
what are your thoughts? How can we bring these different sources together in the very first step? So
yeah, that's
email. How can we merge email with Twitter feedback, with Telegram feedback? We have this feedback board. We can throw all of it in by typing it manually. If this is like a doable way based on your experience, or is there something else? I think because this feedback box would also allow us to tag things, prioritize things there, give ask users again, for example.
I think that there needs to be some option of tagging. I think that if there's tagging, I think that that's going to help with filtering and prioritization. So I think with any tool, I think whatever tool you use, so let's say you choose to put all this user feedback in this, how do you refer to it? You refer to it as a feedback and bug board. I think that tagging is really important, because essentially this process that I've shown you, which we call an affinity diagram in UX research, it's actually basically tagging, but you're doing it manually. So you're actually manually, you're literally copying and pasting all of this user feedback on these sticky notes, and then you're manually sorting it into these groups. I think there just needs to be some sort of tagging as a long-term.
Yeah. It's a tricky one because the best, you always get the best results when someone actually continuously pays attention to something.
Yeah.
There's just no replacing them. Even with things, I mean, I've seen it before with the startup I worked with, some marketing person, they're like, oh, we paid some money to get people from this mailing list to check out our product. I didn't know about that. I was like, I looked at the data, I kept an eye on it. It was just one of the things that I did, and I was like, there's something inconsistent here. Something's not right. And I looked at it and was like, this looks suspicious. I just knew it somehow because it just didn't fit the pattern. And then I asked around, and some marketing person, like, they paid for this mailing list. They sent like 10,000 people there. And so I dug a little bit closer, and I could figure out within like 10 minutes that it was basically Russian spam. It was very obvious, like digging a little bit. And, it's really best if somebody pays attention to it. And that it's kind of time consuming, it's kind of annoying. They'll see a lot of things that are totally irrelevant, but when they see some like important things will stick out, and that's when it's important that they bring them up to the rest of the team. Yeah. So some things they're like, you have to figure out, like, okay, this is not important, not important, not important. This is really important. This is something we have to figure out. I need to let everyone know right away. Or, okay, here's something that we kind of need to archive. We need to get to this. This will be important in some way. Like, this is good to know. And then I'll put it in that bucket, and we'll talk about it in 2 weeks or a month or so. So there's only so much you can automate with these things, especially if they're spread across all of these different tools. And they have their different characteristics. Twitter stuff goes away within 5 seconds. Things on Reddit, people might find them a year later or so. So it's kind of tricky.
Something really practical, like I know there's all these paid tools and paid sources, but we work in open source, and I almost feel like I'm sending you down the commercial route if I send you to one of these paid tools. We can be creative and come up with our own sources. And I was just thinking of something that we do in a lot of the like in Bitcoin Core, we'll have like, and probably you say, oh no, not another GitHub project board, please, no. But, something that could maybe work, and I'm speaking very loosely here, is what if you had like a GitHub board that someone maintains? It's kind of called this customer feedback board, and in this feedback board, someone would need to constantly update the different sections in the GitHub board. So, yeah.
And it's a kind of a PM work.
It's really, it's a lot. It's literally a full-time job, like, for someone to do that. Like, you'd have to get the feedback, and then, like, at least on a weekly basis, you're popping that feedback into those specific GitHub project sections. You're just feeding it back into that, and then you start to notice, the onboarding section has a lot of customer feedback. Okay, like, maybe we should think about addressing that, And then from time to time, you can kind of go back to that GitHub board and look back, and you never lose your data because it lives constantly online. It's completely open for everyone to see. I don't know. I'm thinking really loosely. Like, I've never had this challenge before, so it's very,
It's messy because it's so diverse, right? And there's no way around it. You can automate certain things, certainly possible. You can pull in some data feeds in the database, make it searchable or so, but you cannot replace just this effort of actually reading it and evaluating what's important, what's unimportant, talking about it as a team, prioritizing it. For those, you can pick all kinds of different tools, whatever works best, and they'll change as you grow as a team. There will be some point when you just cannot, when it's just simply not possible to manage the feedback anymore. Ideally, you'll get to that point, right? That's what you want. And right now, it's still manageable. Maybe it's like 1 month down the road, maybe it's 5 months down the road, when it's not manageable anymore. and you can automate certain bits and pieces, but there are certain things that it just requires a human to
Proper.
look at them.
Right now, we have. Sorry, right now, sorry, I spoke over you. We have a tag, user feedback, that we tag on our tickets that we create on GitHub. We don't even need a separate board. We can just sort issues by that tag. And we haven't used it too often, but maybe if we have a call and agreement on how we create user feedback GitHub tickets, then we could use it more and then sort through it afterwards. But that would include only like tickets that people care for.
Renee, you wanted to speak. Please go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, it's fine. Just wanted to say, there is obviously no full automation in there. I think, like Christoph said, you have to go over them. For us as team, I think it's just important to have a common understanding of how we handle those things. What's the source of truth in the end, and what expectations do we have? Which tickets should go in there? So for me, we have to decide, do I create those issues based on feedback because I think it's important and we should address it? Or is it also like to get feedback on where users have problems? And I don't think the latter one should be on GitHub issues, for instance. But we can decide either way. I think either we use the feedback board or we use GitHub issues. I don't mind. We just have to decide on where we put those things, maybe.
Yeah.
It seems like two parts. One is kind of your internal common understanding and workflow, your best practices, how you do things. Maybe that's worth just writing down somewhere. It's like, we get feedback here, this is how we approach it, this is how we check it. If we find something that stands out here, we copy it over there, that kind of stuff. And then the second part seems like it was about just once that's in, like how you go about it and organize it and turn it into something practical.
And also maybe think about this tagging stuff to have some kind of way to group them into like those areas you mentioned now. But I think that's doable in all of the tools we just spoke about. We just need to decide on where we want to do it.
Which tool, yeah. You kind of choose GitHub, then you just do everything on GitHub. Or if you use, it's pretty much just grouping stuff, and it doesn't matter how you group it. It's pretty much it's almost like this. It's like you have this messy room of all the user feedback. It's all these little, stones lying on the floor, and the stones are different colors, and you basically have the red stones mixed with blue, black, white. You just need to put the red stones together and the black stones together, and it doesn't matter how you do it. But once you start to group the stones together, you can move that into making design decisions. So it's just a matter of, the diagram I showed you is one way of grouping the stones together. But you guys as a team have to kind of decide what's your best way of grouping the stones together. That works long term as well, I guess, What's your feeling, Moritz?
No, I'm thinking what's next for us. So what can we take out of this call, given that we are already 50 minutes in. So I think one thing that we would need to decide on our side is probably how do we aggregate or summarize all the feedback from the different channels. Where do we collect it? And then the next one is how do we categorize them, right? What is the right granularity that is needed to act on it later on? And at least for the second part, for this categorization, I think this could be useful also to reflect it together with you. So just a simple example, is it enough if we say it's a bug, it's a feature, do we need to go down, say, okay, this is onboarding feature, this is send feature. This is something that we would need your help with.
And it's, I think, something that I learned from Christoph as well is to keep things as simple as possible. Maybe just really try to work with the tools that the team is familiar with working with. Like, let's not go too scientific here. Let's just keep everything as simple as possible. And like, in terms of tools that you guys are using within the team at the moment, like, what do you guys use for internal communication, like grouping things or communication? You use Google Documents? Do you use something else? Or like, keep it simple. What do you guys use at the moment?
For user feedback, I would suggest that we give it a try with this feedback board that is already in use there.
Mm-hmm.
It's a purpose-built tool just for collecting user feedback, so it's probably one of the most advanced ones that we anyway use.
Mm-hmm.
We just have to develop this discipline within the team that the feedback that we gather from emails also end up there, for example.
Do you have like a feedback communication channel within the team or anything like this? Like, I mean, I'm like really thinking out of the box here, like literally like a Slack channel, like, or like it could even be as simple as a Google document that becomes like 100 pages, that every single time feedback comes in, you literally, it's what the three of us have been doing, you literally just copy and paste the feedback into the Google document and keep everything in one place. Obviously Google Documents doesn't have its longevity, but just, it feels like everything needs to be kept in one place together for then you to be able to make decisions based off that. Yeah. So, what feels, Christoph?
The question is, what would Rocky Balboa do? Keep looking at that poster. If you were not a boxer. But...
No, I'm not.
Keep it simple. Just keep it simple. Don't.
I think the question about categorization, I think you can come up with some that, bug feature kind of makes sense, onboarding, send, receive also kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
And then I think that's pretty clear.
Pretty much it.
Useful.
Yeah.
But then any other ones, unique ones, I would really just keep an eye, like what does the content want? Like what is the feedback want? Like, what patterns do you see? And you might come up with some really weird ones or some very specific ones that are specifically based on your product that are super useful just because of how your team is and how your product is. But I think those sound good. Ones that you mentioned earlier to start with.
Yeah, start with those tags. And with the Blixt wallet, the sprint, this is exactly what we did. Millie went into the Telegram channel, and I learned so much from that sprint. I can't wait to do another sprint. She literally just went into the Telegram channel. She did exactly what we did. She copied and pasted all of the feedback onto a Google document. We then took the Google document and we sorted it. We grouped everything. She started grouping it. We started noticing trends. And the trend that we noticed was that people were having problems opening Lightning channels. So that was the part of the interface that we really focused on improving. But they had a lot of less data than you guys have. So if you guys had to do this process, I would suggest working in really short time frames, because your users are so communicative that if we go on a time frame of a year or even 6 months, to group that feedback together and then to make quick decisions to feed that feedback back into the interface, it's going to be really long, that period, because then you're spending a lot of time sorting through the data, seeing where the data fits in the interface. And yeah, it's a little bit of a sprint really to do that. But it also feels like you guys, maybe you can sprint it and then you can test how it feels for you as a team if you feel the decisions feed directly back into the interface in terms of design decisions. If you see it works well with feeding back into the design decisions, then you're like, okay, we can do this on repeat, and maybe you decide to do it every 6 months, or you decide to do it every 4 months. And yeah, I don't know.
I think it's a great proposition, and to be actionable from what we've discussed today and what we've collected prior to this call. I think on Tuesdays we have design calls, design refinement calls, and today's one was also focused on user feedback and acting on that, but that was for one case. For next one, we can just I can go and create PicJam boards where we have this visual session, how we tackle it, and then on the when we finish it, we decide how we do it on GitHub. And already one of our teammates, Hannes, he made a support handling document, how we take care of things. So initial message comes by email, Telegram, Twitter, feedback board, design, Slack, etc. And then decide if we're opening an issue and move all info into the issue. And no personal info, just the issue. If unclear, try tagging a person that might be able to judge. Think about the priority. This is the group activity, so set a priority. If high priority but not unclear, assign to a person. If high priority and issue is clear, assign to a person who's going to be working on it. It's like our internal way of creating these issues, but also tagging, adding that support handling document, how we tag them, so we can later just go and view them in buckets. I think that would work from today onwards, so something we can start now after the call.
Yeah, cool.
Something, I don't know how much you have those issues, but something that's really common in larger customer support teams is that you've built this internal database of questions and answers. So the user comes with this problem, you copy paste this text, and then you kind of continually add to it, and that cuts down a lot of these ticket response times. Keeping your internal database that can also then feed into some kind of help section on the website or something like that. But I don't know how much of a time killer that is for you right now.
Hard to judge. We are creating videos for users who request the most simplest features. Explain, creating Lightning wallet, changing your password. What else? Connecting your Lightning address to your social profiles. So those we cover with videos because the audience is like visual and will better understand if you show links. Yes. Other feedback we try to implement in the product, and this is the way we do it for now.
I mean, it sounds like you have a pretty good handle of those things. It's just there's always just the messy, squishy part. And kind of the discipline part too about just having good workflows and everyone kind of knowing how to go about things, which is kind of bureaucracy in a way, I guess.
Yeah, but now if we had to pull all our feedback, we'd go mad.
It's too much. And practically speaking, that way of grouping data that I shared my screen with you, practically speaking, I think with GetAlby, if we only focus on a month period, we can get something actionable from that. But if we go anywhere longer than a month, we're going to be forever with our feet in the data. And I see we're at the hour as well. So
but, the old stuff might not be relevant anymore because the audience has changed, because the product has changed. Maybe people use it for different things now because all these new Lightning apps are being built or so.
Yeah. And it's likely as well with what Christoph said, and then we'll wrap up the call, is that the user data from a year ago, you guys might have already implemented those changes in the interface. So, it's maybe it's not really worth, in that case, going that far back. But I'd love to join your design call next week, Tuesday, and then we can see how we sprint. We can just yeah.
And yeah, just one more thing. Something to think about is how to capture squishy feedback, which is if you hear people say, I uninstalled it, I just didn't like it, or they just leave 1 star, or they're like, oh, I really like it, or I don't know, just stuff that's just not specific, where you can capture kind of a feeling or a vibe or something, and how if that changes over time, if all of a sudden people just kind of seem less happy or they seem more happy with things. I don't know, if it's not really tickets, right? It's not actionable, it's kind of reading between the lines. I don't know, read the room, if there's a way to do that. Okay, yeah, sorry, Shalom wanted to speak.
Okay, I wanted to say that from this whole call that has been for an hour, I really did not understand much because I was not in the team when you guys went out for user feedback. I don't know if there's like a document or something that can walk me through the process that you went through for the feedback so that I can read the feedbacks and I can understand what people are talking about. And second, I wanted to ask Diana when the design sprint calls usually hold so that I will be present. Thank you.
Sure. The design call is happening every Tuesday, 10 a.m. Central European Time. And you can find a link in our Slack.
Yeah.
Okay, you have a channel.
The Lightning extension Slack channel. It will be posted there on the day before the call, like half an hour to an hour prior to that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. You're most welcome to join Shalom. Most welcome to, they're open source, so they do everything out in the open, and they're a great team to work with. So, yeah.
Is that right? No secrets? No
secrets. No.
I'm going to just stop the recording here on my end. Thank you everyone for joining. I'm just going to stop the recording.